Hey there guys, welcome to my movie vlog. My name is John Campea, and these are my quick thoughts on the current situation that's developing between Disney, the LA Times, and 4 prominent critic groups. For those of you who don't know what's going on, okay, so a little while ago, the LA Times, one of the biggest newspapers in the world, they put out a story about Disney and their business relationship with the city of Anaheim, and it wasn't a flattering piece. I recommend that you go and check that out. I'll put a link to their article in the description below. Now, Disney was not happy with this story, claiming that it was just flat out deceptive, and they said they were no longer going to work with the LA Times until the LA Times does what they call proper journalistic standards, and they put out the following statement. Disney said, "We regularly work with news organizations around the world that we don't always agree with, but in this instance, the LA Times showed a complete disregard for basic journalistic standards. Despite our sharing numerous indisputable facts with the reporter, several editors, and the publisher over many months, the Times moved forward with a biased and inaccurate series wholly driven by a political agenda. So much so that the Orange County Register, another news outlet, referred to the LA Times report as a hit piece with a seemingly predetermined narrative. We've had a long relationship with the LA Times, and we hope they will adhere to balanced reporting in the future." A part of Disney refusing to work with the LA Times now also includes their film critics, and they were not going to allow film critics from the LA Times to come to advanced screenings of their films. Now, I happen to know a number of the film critics over at the LA Times, and I can tell you they are magnificent people. This has caused a lot of outrage among the film critic community, and 4 major film critic groups, including that of New York, Boston, and Los Angeles, have now announced that they are boycotting Disney's films and not allowing any Disney film to be part of their annual awards season. Together, those critic associations put out the following joint statement. Disney brought forth this action when it chose to punish the Times journalists rather than express its disagreement with a business story via ongoing public discussion. The statement continued, "Disney's response should gravely concern all who believe in the importance of a free press, artists included." Now, for those of you who have watched me for any period of time, you know I love the film critic community, and a lot of the key players involved in this situation are people I know personally, and they are all fantastic people. However, even though this is my own industry, and I'm kind of one of them, I have to express that I am in disagreement with the film critics. Here are a couple of reasons why. Now, the first couple of reasons are just small, minor reasons. The third one is really the big one, but let me explain why I disagree with the film critics on this. Reason number one, and again, this is one of the small reasons, but still, reason number one, press screenings are not a right, even for the press. Again, it's not a big major reason, but it's important to keep in mind as we move forward here that press screenings are a privilege. Not everybody gets invited to them. As a matter of fact, I've been in this business for like 14 years, and I still don't get invited to every press screening. I'm not entitled to be invited. Just because I don't get invited to a certain press screening or a certain premiere doesn't give me the right to get all upset and mad about it and say, "You are doing wrong to me." No, it's a privilege. It's your advanced screening. They are free as a studio, Warner Brothers, Universal, Disney, Lionsgate, to invite whichever film journalists and film critics they want to these things for whatever reasons they want. They are not entitled to be invited. I am not entitled to be invited. Reason number 2, and again, this is just a small one leading up to the big one, which is reason number 3, but reason number 2 is this. If seeing early screenings is about freedom of the press, which is kind of what they suggest in their statement, where's the outrage over movies that they don't screen for critics at all in the first place? The statement that the Film Critics Society put out are trying to suggest that critics being entitled to see these movies in advance is a right, and it's all about journalistic integrity and journalistic freedom. Okay, if that's the case then, and if you're trying to be consistent, why, when a movie like Will Ferrell's The House comes out and they don't show it to any critics at all, where is the outrage then? Where is your anger over, "You are trampling on the freedom of the press by not showing us early screenings"? Now let me move on to my third point about why I disagree with the critics, and this is really the big one. But you have to keep in mind the previous points I made. Number 1, going to film press screenings is not a right. It is a privilege. Not everybody gets invited, and even those who do don't get invited to everything, so keep that in mind. Now, here's the third reason I disagree with the journalists, and this is the big one. No one is bothering to check or even ask if Disney's claims are true or not. Disney has made a very serious charge, saying that over a course of months, We communicated with the reporter, with editors and publishers, gave them tons of indisputable facts and all this kind of stuff, and they left it all out and printed what appeared to be a predetermined piece with a political agenda. So much so that even other news outlets are reading it and saying, hey, this was just a pure hit piece. Now, if Disney's lying about that, then screw Disney. They have no right to bar an LA Times film critic just because you don't like an honest piece that the LA Times did, and the film critic societies have every right to ban Disney over this. I totally stand with them. The problem I have here, though, is that I don't even hear anybody even asking the question, is Disney telling the truth? Is Disney right? Did the LA Times flagrantly disregard real facts just so they could print the narrative they wanted to print and essentially, as another newspaper pointed out, print a hit piece about Disney? Because if that's true, and Disney isn't obligated to work with any particular news outlet, then I kind of feel Disney might be within their rights of saying, hey, look, if you're going to be completely unfair to us, if you're going to disregard the facts and mislead your readers, then we want to exercise our choice not to work with you. And I'm not saying Disney's telling the truth, and I'm not saying Disney is lying. I'm simply saying I'm a little bit concerned that in this whole scope of this discussion with the film critics, the critic organizations aren't even asking the question if what Disney is saying is true. Because if you invite 20 people over to your house for a dinner party and one of them every single time drops their pants and craps on your carpet for no reason whatsoever, you're within their rights to not invite that person to your dinner party anymore. You see, I think I would be more with the film critic organizations if they had taken a couple of weeks and said, you know what? We're going to independently look into these claims. Did the LA Times really mistreat Disney? Did they flagrantly mislead their readers? Did they print or purposefully avoid printing true facts just so they could tell their narrative? I wish they had looked into it. And if they did and said, you know what, we find no basis for what Disney is saying, then yeah, I would totally support the film critics organizations in boycotting and banning Disney from their award ceremonies. But as it stands, I find it a little bit hypocritical that the critic organizations would say this: Disney brought forth this action when it chose to punish the Times journalists rather than express its disagreement with a business story via ongoing public discussion. So what the film critics are saying is that if Disney feels that the LA Times wronged them, the proper approach wouldn't have been to punish the journalists from the LA Times, but rather start an open, ongoing discussion. Well, didn't you just do that? Film critic organizations, you didn't like something Disney just did? Well, then instead of starting a discussion, instead of looking into it yourselves and instead of starting your own 2 or 3 week investigation into it, you just punished Disney. So you're doing the exact same thing you just accused Disney of doing. Look, honestly, in this whole situation, I don't know who's right and who's wrong because I don't know if Disney is lying about their statements or if Disney is telling the truth about them. I simply don't know. My only concern here, though, is that film critics are acting really entitled, like they are owed something by rushing to take action against Disney before they've even taken a second to pause and consider, hey, is Disney telling the truth? Because I think we all would acknowledge that companies like Universal or Disney or Warner Brothers or Paramount, they have the right that if they're being treated completely unfairly, they have a right to choose to not work with that organization anymore. Anyway, I know the things I'm saying in this video are going to be completely unpopular because everybody wants to adopt the mob mentality, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm not saying Disney's right or wrong. Like I said, if Disney's not telling the truth and not being really accurate about saying things like the LA Times flagrantly disregarded the facts and they wrote a hit piece and it was politically motivated, if Disney's not being accurate about that, then screw Disney. They should get banned from the award ceremonies. Absolutely. I'm just saying somebody needs to ask the question and look into it before rushing to action. Anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on this really unfortunate situation brewing between the film critics and one of the big major studios. What do you think about all this? Do you have some thoughts or some points that maybe I didn't even consider or bring up? Jump down in the comment section and leave your thoughts below. Let's get a discussion going. That'll do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.